I'm sure some of you must wonder, what does the post office do? Since electronic age has taken over, people send SMSs, emails, so probably post office really doesn't have too much of job. When was the last time any of you sent a letter or a greeting card? A handwritten letter or a greeting card? Barely. I haven't done. I've been in the service for almost 25 years. But then post office doesn't handle just mail operations. It's just not delivering your letters. There's a whole lot of other services that post office does. And in fact, one of the major banking services is provided by Post Office Savings Bank. Similarly, postal life insurance, rural postal life insurance, courier services, logistic services for major government departments like census, education departments, India Security Press, and so many other retail services are actually delivered through post office counters. I will share my thought on financial inclusion role a little later. Fundamentally, what does the economic theory tell? That economic development is dependent at least on 5 different types of capitals or resources: physical, infrastructure, roads, buildings, plants, machinery, etc. Natural, land, water, livestock, weather, forest, human, nutrition, health, education, skills, entrepreneurship, competencies, social, kinship, association, trust, norms, institutions, and monetary, that is financial related, money, income, savings, investments. And nations have and continuously strive to increase the different types of resources and capitals so that the welfare, growth, development concerns of its citizens and also mankind in general can be addressed. It is in this context that financial inclusion needs to be seen not as an end in itself, it's a process for a greater, larger welfare and good. In fact, the first Rangarajan committee, which actually looked at financial inclusion, clearly defines it as a process. And the government of India and the RBI has taken many initiatives to take forward this whole agenda. Several guidelines, several diktats, as Mr. Sundararajan has just mentioned, several action plans which the regular banking sector couldn't really ignore have been put in place. And as earlier Ms. Preeta Mishra has shared, there have been very significant achievements in the first phase of financial inclusion. And recently, the RBI has put in a policy discussion on banking structure in India and the way forward, where it is actually opening up for differential banking players to meet the differential requirements of groups, credit and remittance and many other needs. And in that context, it actually says the primary objective of setting up payment banks will be to further financial inclusion by providing small savings accounts and payments or remittances services to migrant labor force, low-income households, small businesses, and other unorganized sector entities and other users. Accordingly, the recent guidelines that have been, draft guidelines that have been put forth do simplify a lot of KYC norms, credit limits, and other factors. And this definitely will go a long way in extending the frontiers of financial inclusion. And where does the post office come in all this? Some of you may be aware that India Post has aspirations to become a bank in the traditional sense. Whether there's been a bank or no bank, there is a lot of discussion, and the RBI has been quite positive about considering India Post's request. There's a lot of discussion with the Ministry of Finance underway right now. Whether it becomes a bank or doesn't become a bank, the post office already, in fact ever since 1882 to be precise, more than 150 years, has been providing financial services. Unless the technology solutions, whether it is hardware, whether it is software solutions, and are put in place with appropriate partnerships, it would not really be possible for us to aim for such a high growth of financial inclusion. And especially in view of the digital finance that we are talking about, with more mobile-based delivery of financial services, there is a need for greater partnerships. M-Pesa, as you know, in Kenya, bKash in Bangladesh, etc., have successfully demonstrated that there are other easy and quick remittance options for transfer of cash without use of bank account by the poor people. According to TRI, the tele density in India is 73.32% at the end of March 2013. There has been a significant rural tele density, as we are all aware about. But the banking transactions through mobile services is yet to really take off in India. A lot of regulatory issues need to be addressed, and I'm sure we will be heading there. It is in this context that the banks, post offices, MFIs, and others need to actually have some kind of a strategy and plan of action to integrate their own business systems with the larger digital technologies, so that their space is not taken over by just the neighborhood shops for cash and other transactions, financial transactions. Another challenge that we found from our experience was connectivity. For all our grand designs of extending financial inclusion to thousands of villages, connectivity is an issue that still needs to be addressed. Even in a state like Andhra Pradesh, which has a tremendous ecosystem for highly innovative way of doing business, about 10% of Gram Panchayats that we are working with still have connectivity problem, and we are doing offline banking transactions and then uploading the transaction data at at the end of the day because of connectivity problem. Almost 5 to 8% of the 12,000 Gram Panchayats we are working on have this, especially in remote tribal districts, and that is where really we need to provide financial inclusion too, in remote districts. Biometric authentication failures, especially for the elderly, we find that more than 1 to 2% failure rate is there, and that is a very high percentage. But we did find another solution, utilizing the Aadhaar iris data. Almost 99% or 99.9% of pensioners are also able to take with Aadhaar authentication their wages and pensions. So in that context, to actually scale up technology to utilize iris is an investment that one